place up. Put my face up. Why you doing all that? Thought you was my wife, but you slapped me in the back. Put the place up. Put my face up. Why you doing all that? Thought you was my wife, but you slapped me in the back. Put my face up. Why you doing all that? Thought you was my wife, but you slapped me in the back. I ain't going outside in this cold ass winter, gotta roll up and out. See you from afar, got my thoughts in the sky. Where we used to kiss, sunshine, shit, and why? You gotta call me every day, pretend you my baby. I see more real out there lately, it's crazy. Yeah, we could be the same as we claiming this kingdom shit and keep it tame. Come on, baby girl, we not the same. Two different speeds, but we keep it one lane. Yeah, what goes around comes around. Keep 100, y'all. Do this for my soul like a dawn. Put the stereo on.
Put your hands in the air, we'll be alright. Oh, yeah. You keep messing up my mind, but I love your style. You know I
Put the place up. Put my face up. Why you doing all that? Thought you was my wife, but you slapped me in the back.
afraid, won't let you fall, girl.
Hello there. Welcome to my de-escalation live Q&A. It has been a minute since I have shown up live for you, and I'm excited. I'm excited to be back. Why have I been away? Well, now that the world is beginning to feel a bit more normal, I have resumed traveling. I have been grounded for a full 2 years. I guess we're 3 years into this pandemic. So 2 years and more, I was doing my work 100% digital. And I have loved that. I've absolutely loved meeting my clients through a live digital workshop. However, I have missed in person. So I've had a few trips. I spoke at a conference in St. Louis, a large conference, and we had a huge turnout. I think people were just ready to get out. And then from there, I did a small workshop. I had around 50 people, 50 to 60 people in Atlanta. Last week, I spoke at a large conference in New York. So juggling my still ongoing live digital, now traveling, that's what's going on. How about you guys? Are you still working from home? I know a lot of the people who would come to my lives during the pandemic, you were working from home. So are you still working from home? Is it sort of a hybrid? Let me know. Let me know what's going on with you. Now, one thing I do know is that most of the people that have questions for my live Q&A when we talk about de-escalation or customer service or call control, most of the people with questions are working, and it's very hard to get away to submit a question. You all have let me know that. I knew that, but thank you for reaching out. And so I want you to know I see you, I hear you, and that's why today we're trying a new format. So what I've done for today is I went to my email list, my email subscribers, and asked people to share with me questions that I could answer in my next Q&A. And I also went to YouTube and grabbed some questions. So today, what we're going to do, and we've scheduled about 30 minutes, what we're going to do is I'm going to take the questions that my subscribers have sent in, people who cannot make a live, and you'll get your questions answered as you watch the replay. So I'm going to jump to the first question, and let me know you're here. Say hello, and let me know how your world is seeming more normal, if in fact it is. I hope it is, but let me know what's going on with you. All right, so the first question is from Trisha. She is one of my email subscribers, and I think Trisha told me she definitely would not be able to make it. Here's Trisha's question. And by the way, I chose to answer questions that I think could speak to many of us. If the question was very specific or the scenario was so concentrated that I know it wouldn't speak to many audiences, I replied to the person directly. So those people know who they are. The questions I've chosen, I think, may help others. How I work, or I bet that's hi. Hi, I work with a team that provides email support. I have seen a trend that I'm not sure how to address. When de-escalating through email, they often apologize 2 to 4 times within a single interaction. Sometimes they will add in an apology for a delay in response, even when there wasn't one and the customer didn't explain. Or they apologize for a product feature that is by design. To me, Trisha says, it comes across as inauthentic. What is your recommendation on how often to apologize and what to apologize for? I hope to remove some of the gray area for my team. Trisha, thank you. Thank you for that question. Trisha, this takes me back to when I managed a contact center. I had an employee who, one of the first things out of her mouth was, "I'm sorry." Or she would say, "I apologize." "Sir, I apologize." "Ma'am, I apologize." And that's when our customer would begin to get upset. I'm talking over talking, escalating the voice. My employee would, "Sir, I apologize." And that was her way of trying to preempt an escalation. But she did it for a second reason. In our quality monitoring, we required our agents back then to say I'm sorry if the problem was in fact our company's fault. So she was also trying to make sure she checked that box. But when I would listen to her recorded phone calls or just be walking through the call center and hearing her, it sounded inauthentic. It sounded robotic. And I remember removing that requirement later because I didn't want people to just say, I'm sorry, or I apologize, just so that they don't get dinged on a quality form. But at the same token, there are times when you need to apologize. Now, you said 2 to 3 times, 2 to 4 times in a single interaction. That is too much. My daughter, my 22-year-old daughter, when she was a little girl, went through a phase where she was over apologizing. I know if you've been to some of my workshops, you may have heard me talk about this, where I remember once we were talking about a play date, and she had a friend over, and the friend wanted to go roller skating. Lauren didn't want to. "Oh, I'm sorry, I don't want to go skating. I just don't want. I'm sorry, I don't want to be a downer." And I counted that afternoon, like in the span of a couple minutes, Lauren apologizing several times. So I brought her into the kitchen away from her friend to talk about why. You as a little girl and later as a woman, we don't need to do that. Women tend to over apologize. Same kind of rule for our customer service professionals, Trisha. I do believe in saying I'm sorry when we know that we are at fault. Or you can even apologize for an inconvenience or misunderstanding. I'm sorry for any misunderstanding this has caused, or I'm sorry you had to make this call today. 2 to 4 times, no. Apologizing for a feature that's designed into the product, no. Trisha, I would guide your employees to apologize when it makes sense. So you might choose to apologize for a long wait to speak to me. I'm sorry you had to wait so long. Or I'm sorry for any misunderstanding this has caused. Or, and then you fill in the blank. But let your people know that when you over apologize, that robs you of credibility. You don't come across as confident. So I say no more than 2 times. Most of the time, I think you can do that 1 time. So let them know how it comes across. It's robbing you of credibility. We don't need to apologize for a problem that didn't happen or a design feature. We can explain, let me explain why our product or service does this. You can explain without an apology. So Trisha, thank you so much for that question. I hope that helps you. Barbie wants to know, and Barbie's actually one of my local clients. I live in Tulsa, and I do very little work in my own backyard. So it's always exciting when I get to see a familiar face. Barbie wants to know, how do you handle a notoriously aggressive customer when you need to inform them of a problem caused by a third party or by the customer themselves? Now, wow, I'm really looking at the word notoriously aggressive. So this is a person who is over the top and they don't realize that perhaps they are the problem or it has nothing to do with you. For this question, I also am going to go back to my contact center days. That we would often have a problem, that our customers would often have a problem that had nothing to do with the company, nothing to do with the contact center. We were in car rental, nothing to do with the location that they rented the car from. And you want to be careful here. You never want to come across, Barbie, as if you are pointing the finger or passing blame. What you want to do is you want to focus on my 3R de-escalation method. If you're not familiar with it, I know Barbie is, but people here, if you're not familiar, just search on my YouTube channel 3R de-escalation method, and you'll find a video or two on that. And that first step is recognize, which is I'm going to acknowledge your concern or acknowledge your pain point, acknowledge where you're coming from. So we're not going to tell them why we're not at fault or that you need to talk to someone else. We're going to acknowledge, I realize this whole thing has been frustrating for you. Might be a way to explain, or I can see your point on that, or I realize the policy may have led to misunderstanding. but some sort of acknowledgement, one sentence, just like we don't want to over apologize, we don't over empathize. And then the second step in my 3R method would be to reframe. And so reframe is where we let the person know it's not me. Your beef is not with me. So you're going to, and Barbie, let me just say, you want to recognize, you can't skip that because you told me that the person is notoriously angry. So that is to me like that's like a 10 in terms of anger. And I'm reading into that. Maybe they are a repeat customer and this is just who they are. So you're going to have to recognize that's that empathy that begins to create calm. And reframe is when you let them know that they may need to talk to a third party or it's them. So I would be very careful. Reframe is where I'm trying to reposition the situation. So I might say, let's say if it's actually their fault, what I think has happened here, Mr. Customer, is you may not have noticed this step. Let's say it was assembly. They're putting something together or an action they needed to take. You may not have noticed this step. It's easy to miss. So what we need you to do at this point, and then you can explain that. If it's a third party, which that's probably an easier situation for them, the customer, to stomach. All right, I realize that this has been frustrating for you. That's step one, reframe. What's going on here is you are going to need to speak directly with our XYZ department or with somebody on the outside. So you direct them. And I hope you can pick up my tone here. I am working intentionally to not sound inflammatory. I don't want to sound defensive. I don't even want to sound excited that I get to push you back to another party or put it on you. I want them to feel that empathy. I want them to hear that empathy. So what I think has happened here is what you'll need to do next is, and then the third step of my 3R is resolve. And in resolve, usually you don't have a solution or you wouldn't be in an escalated situation. But resolve, as is all of you who have gone through my workshop know, that can be guiding people to the next steps, explaining what they need to do, or reiterating any options that you've already presented. So Barbie, my recommendation is a 3R method, focusing on your tone of voice and making that empathy, letting that empathy come through. All right. Oh, I didn't realize this was going to be so small. All right. This next question came directly from my YouTube channel. And so let me read this. And what I did is I wanted to cut the person's name off. Sometimes you don't need to see all of that. I am about a month into taking calls and am so hurt by my inability to handle calls. I think I might be interrupting too much when people rant. Yet I'm just trying to acknowledge listening. When I try to speak other than acknowledgement to let them know that I'm listening, they yell at me for interrupting, but I try to remain quiet. They mock me, wow, for manipulating with silence and not putting in effort. And you're not trying to manipulate. I know that by just reading this. I try to reiterate that my intention is to help, and they say I'm useless. I try to be confident and assertive, and they go ballistic. I'm horrified and ashamed that I'm sucking so badly. I want this job and I want to do well, but I'm sure I'll be fired. Is it possible for a person to simply be inadequate at this job? I'm mortified. Any advice? That breaks my heart. That breaks my heart, and I'm sorry. And first of all, I'm going to disagree with you that you are horrible at this job. What it sounds like to me is you are new in this position, this company, and maybe you're new to customer service, right? We all started somewhere. To the person who sent that in, I'll tell you my very first workshop, all right, when I was speaking, and I've done hundreds, probably a couple of thousand workshops now, and it's comfortable. It's old shoe comfortable for me now, but in the beginning it wasn't. I remember my voice quivering. I remember literally shaking, my left leg shaking to the point that I felt like people could see it, perspiring. And I share that with you to say, when we're new at something, some of us, and I'm part of that, we may not be expert level. So give yourself some grace to know that it's going to take time. Number two, your company has a responsibility to prepare you. I don't know the company name. I don't know what the training is like, but they have a responsibility to prepare you, right? So that you feel more confident. So you're getting feedback from customers that your silence is manipulating, they're mocking you. You need a coach, you need a manager, somebody to guide you, somebody that you can take that feedback to. But the fact that you came to my YouTube channel tells me you may not have that. So to the person who, and I'm not going to just put your name out there like that. You deserve not to have that. I am going to reply to you personally. And here's what I'm going to recommend. I have a customer service masterclass, and that masterclass covers everything from telephone skills to empathy, call control, how to handle difficult customers. We go into chat and email. It is truly a masterclass covering 8 unique topics. I'm going to reach out to you and give you what your company should be giving you. I'm going to coach you through that class. So look for that. I will reach out actually today before I go to my next meeting and after this. And I'm sorry that that is your situation. All right. My next question is also from YouTube. It's probably going to show up small again. I'm sorry that I didn't catch that before. Let me read. And here's the thing. It's so small, I'm having to lean into my screen to read it. Do you have any tips on how to handle a customer that you know for 100% fact is lying? I had one customer tell me that the agent she spoke to the week prior approved her replacement. When I looked back at her calls, I saw that the last agent she spoke to was also me. I checked the notes that I created for that call and saw that I rejected her replacement claim and stated that I explained the reasons why to the member. With every single denial case, I always explain it in the same very clear way, so there is no way for her to have been confused by what I said previously. I know she, just like many other members, was just lying to try to get me to give her a replacement, which I could not do. That's the first question. Also, do you have any tips on what to say when a customer threatens to get a lawyer or the Better Business Bureau involved? I hear those threats every single day, and she emphasizes in caps and with a period after each, every single day. And I never know what to say to them. I just tend to ignore them and continue to explain why we can't do what the member wants, legal contracts and all that. But I'm sure there's a better way of going about it. All right. Okay. Let me take the first part of that question. I might have to look back at the question to make sure I have everything. What do you do when a person is 100%, is 100% lying? This is why it is so important to take good notes on every interaction. I mean, you've probably heard a supervisor or a manager stress the importance of that. I used to say, get as close to verbatim notes as you can. We need everything. And when you have a culture of taking notes, documenting everything, it is easier for the next person. Now, in your case, you remembered, or you saw in the system that you were the person to speak to that person. But I'm just going to shout out to everybody. Just remember to take detailed notes. So when a customer comes back, you're able to say, all right, on May 2nd at 12:53 p.m. Eastern Time, you spoke with Stacy, and here's what she explained. Now, you don't want to call a customer a liar, and we can know that they're 100% lying. Customers lie, people lie. And B, we can't call them out on that. I would point out the facts by pointing to the evidence, just as you said in your question. So in this situation, I'm going to go back so I can see if I can pull out something specific here. What I would do, I might say, and let's call her Jamie. Jamie, I'm looking at the notes, and it was actually me that you spoke with last week. And I would not even say last week. I would give the date. Okay, so on April 27th at 12:37 p.m. Eastern Time, you spoke to me. And at that time, I explained to you that we are not able to replace your product. And then I would explain why. Hopefully that's in the notes, but you probably have several reasons why you're not able to. And so maybe you say, when a product performs as it is intended, we're not able to replace. All right, they're going to be minor imperfections or nuances that don't fall in the category of replacement. But what I'm saying is you want to be very specific. All right, so you spoke to me on X day, X time. I explained to you, and you just reiterate what you've already explained, and then you end assertively with, we are not able to replace the product because. And so you give a reason. So you don't ever call them a liar. You just kind of point to the exhibits. You called on this date. We told you X. Here's why. And then you reiterate that. That's all I would do. Let me go back to the second part. I think I remember the second part. When a person threatens to get their lawyer, or they threaten to go to the Better Business Bureau. You know, for a lot of companies, and I don't know if you're in the US, but for a lot of companies, and I don't know if I can tell where you are, we here in the US we don't continue. If a person makes a threat that I am going to go to the Better Business Bureau, or tells us we have, or I have filed a complaint with the Better Business Bureau or the FCC, whatever the governing body is, if that is where they've taken it, then stop. When I manage a call center, that's exactly what we would do. So if they say we've gone to the Better Business Bureau, or we have disputed this through our credit card, or I have a lawyer, everything is off at that point. So we would say, in an assertive, professional way, all right, now that you have filed a complaint with the Better Business Bureau or the FCC or whoever, this is beyond the scope of what I can do, and we will communicate through other channels. That's what I would do. And if the threat is a lawyer, all right, then surely your company has a legal team. Then our people basically will talk to your people. So that's how we would handle it. But to be sure, I would talk to your supervisor about that. How do you want us to handle any complaints? And you said every single day somebody's doing that. How do you all want us to handle it when someone says they've got a lawyer? So I would really consult with them. All right. This is from Mariko, one of my email subscribers, and we're doing good. I set aside 30 minutes for this Q&A, and so we're down to about 6, so we're doing good. Mariko wants to know, Myra, we would love to hear from you some tips to take proper care of sensitive customers with a lot of struggles or on a difficult situation like disease, sickness, etc. Thanks so much in advance, and I hope to hear from you soon. So they have, Mariko, I'm not clear if you're in the medical industry. It sounds to me that you are. And wow, here, Mariko, when I look at this, when people, whatever industry, if you're not in medical, I know, I think this kind of speaks to me. Maybe it's you're an insurance company, and maybe a claim is denied. I could be way off. What I would say, when you have people with special, unique, sensitive, painful situations like you've described, it can be a disease, or it can be long haul COVID. I did work with a few life insurance companies where a spouse or a child has died, and I'm having to call. We haven't even buried the loved one, and we're having to talk about life insurance, file a claim. All of those situations, to me, require the same response, and that's empathy, right? So we can't just glaze over whatever the situation is. You need to convey empathy, whatever that is. And empathy doesn't have to be a lot, but it does have to be genuine. You do have to have a verbal expression. Wow, I'm so sorry. Or before you get to the nuts and bolts of the problem, first let me say, I'm sorry. Or, oh my, whatever is natural for you. So don't jump into whatever the issue is without some form of empathy / I'm so sorry. Now, empathy, if I don't know if you are new to my channel, I remember, Mariko, you're one of my email subscribers. Right here on my YouTube channel, I have several empathy videos, like 5 to 7. What I'd love you to do is, while you're on my channel, is just in the search bar, type in empathy, and it will pull up all my videos on empathy. And that might be a really good help. you'll have empathy statements, and I even have a video that speaks to people who don't feel like they have empathy. We all do, but maybe we need to get in touch with it. One of my videos will walk you through that. So thank you, Mariko, and I'm sorry that that's one of the situations that you're in. All right, we've got 4 minutes, so I will make Kelly's question our final question in this 30-minute Q&A. Kelly asked, I am a huge fan of yours. Oh, Kelly, thank you. Thank you for that. Our team of guest services folks at our hospital really struggles with de-escalating loved ones of patients with our visitation restrictions due to COVID or violent crime domestic issues. Visitors are already anxious and worried when they arrive to our team. We have the task of informing them they may or may not be able to visit depending on the circumstance. It seems this last year, folks escalate very quickly and our team feels unsafe. We try not to involve security as that can escalate issues even further. I am asking for quick, reliable ways for our team to redirect visitors and reduce the temperature of the interaction so we do not need to involve security as much to address the situation. All right. Wow. So you a hospital, and that you've got a couple of things here. First of all, if you said you've noticed that things are different over the last year or since the pandemic, Kelly, they have been, and it's not just in hospitals. We're in a new era of support for customers, of the customer experience. People are more anxious, impatient, on edge, in your face. They're more angry. So what you're seeing is parallel with what we're all seeing over the phones, in chat, in person, and certainly in hospitals. I love that you have security that you can reach out to. And I would lean into that. That is a gift. I have so many clients like credit unions and smaller boutiques that don't have security, or they can't get security quickly. So you have a gift. I do get though why you say that could escalate the situation. When you see someone show up in uniform, with a point of de-escalating, just their presence can escalate situations. What I would try to do, for COVID, and I hope that we're getting to a new place with COVID, but I do know my medical clients in clinics and centers, the restrictions still apply. Like, you will wear a mask, we will social distance. We're not going to let you make appointments for all 3 of your kids. Well, one at a time. So for my medical clients, that those policies remain and may be here, 2 years from today. I would get to a place where you guide your employees on how to comfortably and confidently explain the why of the policy. Because some of your patients may be confused. Well, look, I don't have to wear a mask to work. My kids don't wear masks to school, to the theater, So they're looking at what's happening outside of the hospital and they don't understand why you have that policy. So I would come up with a statement, for the health of our patients and their families and our staff, we still require mask, social distancing, or whatever your policy is. So I would go in with the why. Now, as you know, in the US and other countries, masking has become a politicized, polarized event. And it's divided our nation into colors, red and blue, if you're in the US. It shouldn't be that way, but that, Kelly, is where we are. So just go into that knowing that people are going to make such a big deal about it, that it's not that big of a deal, but they make it that. They take it there. So come up with a statement as to why. I did this for a theater, Kelly, that you may be able to adapt. So one of my theater clients and their youth theaters throughout the U.S. still require masks. And they do that to really protect the staff, because if one person gets COVID and then several other staff members, maybe the understudy gets it, the show will stop. And so we wrote a statement with, nobody wants to wear masks. This is part of the statement. But for the safety of our cast, we still mandate a mask. And then they would explain the why. Because if one person gets it, we rehearse so closely and perform so closely, many will get it. And that could mean that we have to stop the show. We cancel the show so that we can continue to bring you programs. And to protect our cast and staff, we require a mask. So come up with the why, understanding that people are confused because they don't have to wear a mask virtually anywhere else. So for my theater client, that has been working quite well. For violent crime, domestic abuse, depending on who wants to visit, if that is the perpetrator, okay, I think security is the best thing for you to do in those cases. That's different to me, Kelly, than a COVID restriction. You can try to explain. Right now we are not allowing any visitors, and this is to protect your loved one, to protect our patient. But that kind of situation, I imagine, is going to very more likely require security. So I'm sorry, but I think that probably is a situation. Well, all right, I'm looking at the time, we're right at 32 minutes, and I wanted to give you 30 minutes today of Q&A. So what if you joined us late and you missed my intro? Today, I took a different turn on the Q&A, and we may do a mix of this going forward with me taking your live questions. But most of the people that have questions for me about de-escalation are working during the day. They're on the phones, and there's no way they can get away. So I asked for questions ahead of time, and I answered those questions. So if you sent in a question, I will be reaching out to you on my email list to let you know you can get a recording. And if you reached out to me via YouTube, I'm going to personally reply to you. All right, well, we'll be doing this again where maybe I'll ask prepared questions that you've already sent in and take questions live. Thank you so much for taking time out of your day to meet me here. I will see you in our next live Q&A. Bye for now.